Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and answer them here in video format. A ton of questions over the weekend as Andrew Berry has continued to bring in guy after guy to help this Browns defense. So I'm just going to jump into these questions. First one is from OmniBad, who says, why not sign or draft a dominant defensive tackle like Ndamukong Suh to complement Sheldon Richardson and Miles? When it comes to signing, the big hurdle that the Browns have right now is cap space, right? They could go over $30 million in rollover cap if they wanted to. They're not going to do that, though, because it would be pretty bad chest to do that. And why I say that is if you go 30 over this year, you would be under what the cap would be for the next year. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense. You wouldn't be taking the most advantage of that rollover cap. And since they have been spending or saving that rollover cap since 2016, I would reckon that that's going to come when this new TV contract kicks in and that inflates the salary cap. I think that's when they're going to use that rollover, right? Because that's when they're going to need it. Salary cap's going to inflate. Salaries are going to inflate. All of these things are going to be very important in just a few years. So they're going to wait off on that. So when it comes to signing an Ndamukong Suh or Jadeveon Clowney, that's the hurdle, right? How much money do they have left? How much are they willing to sign? And how much can they free up? They just guaranteed David Njoku's money, $6 million. They could cut him and still save that money on the cap, I believe. I don't know what the dead money would be on that, but I still think they would save money on that. But the fact that they kept him on there, guaranteed the money, they're not cutting him anytime soon. So that's going to be another thing, right? How can they free up more cap space? But yeah, should they add somebody like Ndamukong Suh or Jadeveon Clowney? Yeah. Now, as far as the draft goes, there's just not a dominant, in my opinion, a dominant defensive tackle prospect or defensive end prospect. A lot of these guys look like projects, and projects are fine, but projects aren't necessarily going to help this team where they need to be helped at right now. So that's a more complicated situation as well. But as far as the draft goes, we'll see what happens at 26. There's not really a top 10 prospect. There's not really like a top 5 defensive end prospect this year. There's some guys who can sneak up there a little bit, but I'm not really sold on any of them. So I just don't know what they're going to do there for the other defensive end position. But again, keep my eyes open. I'm not going to underestimate Andrew Berry, not after what he's done the last 2 free agency periods. The next question comes from Ralph Miller, who says, how would you grade the Browns free agency signing so far? I have no issue with not a single one of these signings. I like the Troy Hill deal. I love the John Johnson one. And there are plenty other deals I like. Malcolm Smith coming back, Rashard Higgins coming back, Anthony Walker, Takk McKinley. I'm on the fence about that one because I don't want that to be the only defensive end they sign. But still like the deal. And the Malik Jackson signing, I absolutely love. So they got a ton of interesting signings here that I like. And I think that'd be interesting to see how all these pan out. Next question comes from Soul Train, who says, with the virus impacting college football last season, could we see more mid to late round steals in the draft? This is going to be interesting, right? Because I think there is a lot of logic to suggest that there are going to be a lot of guys who just get overlooked for the bigger names and the bigger brands, which is going to lead to some guys like going undrafted that should have never went undrafted, or late round that should have never went late round. But that's a huge gamble, right? Because when we talk about drafting smaller school prospects or lesser known prospects, the hurdle is information. How much information is there? Now that there is less information, because don't forget, right, if you're trying to draft somebody like a Trey Lance who came out of FCS football, those people, they're not playing. They did not play this fall. So there's no tape in 2020, at least for the Division I guys. Well, 1A guys, there is tape. For the 1AA guys, there is absolutely no tape because of most of those conferences decided to play in the spring. And if you're somebody who is going to be eligible to be drafted in May, you're probably not playing right now in March. So that is going to be a massive concern, right? You're going to have a lot of people who might be really good players who are going to get overlooked because there's just not that much information out there on them. Or maybe they did take a leap and were ready to take a leap, but they just weren't able to play this season. It's going to be crazy. I think this draft, unlike many other drafts, is going to be a complete crapshoot. It does not matter really where you're picking outside of maybe the top 5. We know a lot about the guys who are going to be going there. But for everybody else, this is a crapshoot. You could get a Hall of Fame player in the 5th round by accident in this draft. But you could also draft the worst player in the draft in the 2nd round. Like, that's the kind of crapshoot I expect this draft to be. I have no idea. There's going to be some MAC guys who are going to get underlooked. There are going to be some smaller 1A guys that get underlooked. And there are going to be a ton of 1AA guys that are going to get overlooked or not enough information. Or since there's not enough information, they get overdrafted. It's going to be a crapshoot. That's all I'm saying. So it's going to be all over the place. I don't know if it guarantees there's going to be a sweet spot in this draft. I just think it's going to be one of those drafts where you're like, wow, this Hall of Famer went in the 6th round. Wow, this really good linebacker went in the 5th round. Wow, the worst player in this draft went with the 25th pick or something like that. Like, it's going to be all over the place when it comes to this draft. So I wouldn't expect there to be a real pattern when it comes to this draft. I don't think it's going to be, oh, late round guys are going to hit more. I just think the degree that you can hit on a late round guy is going to be much more random than it would be in any other draft, if that makes sense. The next question comes from Austin Z, who says, if you take the Browns, how are they now before the draft and assuming everybody stays healthy? Do you think they have enough to get over the hump? I do. I think, the pass rushing situation isn't great, but I do think they have enough there in the secondary to give Miles some more time. I'm fine with how the defense looks so far. I'm excited to see what they look like. And I think, if this defense, I said it last year, the defense could just be top 15. Then you're talking about a team that can reasonably make the Super Bowl and win it. The fact that defense was outside the top 15 for so long last year was one of the things that held it back. This year, I think it should be expected that this should be at least a top 15 defense, if not a fringe top 10 defense. I really do think that. And if that's the case, yeah, they should have enough to get over the hump with how good the offense should be with all the returning players coming back. Next question comes from John, who says, hey, the Browns have a lengthy list of playmakers under 26. Which of these players that we saw in action last year will take the biggest leap in your opinion? I think it's going to be Greedy Williams because he's the only one that has a huge leap left to take in him. Guys like Larry Ogunjobi who've kind of been on the cusp are no longer with the team. Greedy Williams is somebody who, when he's out there, he's good. He's just never had a full season. Hopefully he can get healthy, play a full season, and be that complement next to Denzel Ward that we all thought he could be coming out of LSU. The next question is from Aaron, who says, what are your thoughts on edge rushers in this year's draft? Who are the best options at 26? Any chance that Gregory Rousseau is still there? Sorry if I mispronounced your name, Gregory. But I have no idea what the pass rushing. I just don't, because this is a very polarizing pass rushing group. And I don't think there's a lot of consensus in the scouting community when you look at it. I mean, there are guys who go from like top 5 rankings to top 20. You know what I mean? Like, their rankings fluctuate so wildly that I just don't know who's going to be where or who's going to be available where. I think it's going to be, again, a crapshoot. A lot of guys coming into this draft with not that much information are not going to have very strong opinions about any of these players, especially the defensive ends, because I don't think any of them are really any of these big name guys that we have had years of tape to kind of hype up. These are guys who kind of just popped up this year, and I think they can go anywhere from, 1st round early to falling all the way to the 2nd round. I have no idea. I'm not even going to pretend to act like I do. The next question comes from Jessica Lee, who says, what pick in the draft can you see them taking a speedy wide receiver, or do you think they won't at all? I mean, they could take it anywhere, right? If a Devonta Smith falls to you at 26, you got to take him, right? But it can be anywhere they feel like it makes sense. I think they're going to probably use one of their extra 3rd or 4th round picks on a wide receiver, I think that would make a ton of sense there. Next question comes from John, who says, as of right now, on paper, how do you think the AFC or the Browns stack up against the top AFC competition? Well, last year, they were this close to making an AFC championship. You can argue that they were a top 5 team in the AFC. Well, they were a top 5 team in the AFC last year. So yeah, they're right up there already. And with the additions they made to the defense, they are in the mix. I mean, I think they have a better combination, or at least a similar combination of defense and offense that a lot of these teams have, right? The Bills, I think they have a better defense than the Bills. They have more marquee players on that defense than the Bills. I think their offense is more consistent and better than the Buffalo Bills, and also more varied. Same thing goes with Kansas City, right? I think Kansas City probably has the Browns beat on offense, but it's really not by that much more of a margin. And I think the Browns are a more versatile offense than Kansas City. And I think the Browns have the potential to have a better defense than Kansas City, or at least not be, or at least right there neck to neck. Teams like Tennessee and Baltimore, the Browns are with, if not above at this point. So yeah, if you look at those guys, the contenders in the AFC, the Browns were already there last year with a subpar defense. Now that they're trying to get that defense much better, and if it is, they're going to be right there in the top of the pecking order. Next question kind of relates to this from Noah, says, are the Browns Super Bowl contenders? I think so. I think that there's somebody you can seriously talk about as of getting to a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl. I think they are a team that's up there. This isn't one of those, hey, let's just go 11-5 and make a playoffs and maybe win a game kind of expectation years. No, this is where it's not necessarily Super Bowl or bust, because it takes a lot of the fun out of just watching the season, but it's more or less, this is a team that, if everything goes right, definitely has a chance to win a Super Bowl. There's no reason to think that they can't, really. So yeah, I think this team is a Super Bowl contender. I do think that they have made the subsequent moves, and I think, I know a lot of people are going to give me flack for that aren't Browns fans in the comment section, right? Oh, they had one good year, now they're Super Bowl contenders. But put this situation in any other city. Put it in your city. If you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, you thought the Baltimore Ravens were going to go undefeated after their one good season in a while, right? But for the Browns, it's the same situation, right? They have had a good season. They're building on top of that. They're building a better defense. They have a very varied offense, a more 2 to 3 dimensional offense than the Baltimore Ravens had in 2019. And now they're looking to build on top of that. Yeah, I do think they are in a good spot, and I think they are, if they reach their potential, definitely a Super Bowl contender. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.